Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Oh, I seem to be echoing on somebody's channel there. Thank you. Lovely to see you all. Thank you for joining us today. You will see that it's not just the three of us today. We have a fabulous guest who we'll introduce in just a moment. But welcome to the Business Brunch. If you've just stumbled across this for the first time and think, oh, what am I doing here? We offer continuous professional development over lunch in bite-sized chunks. So we want to help you learn, we want to help you evolve, we want to help you thrive in this crazy world that we live in any shape or form that we can. My name's Sarah Farmer. I'm an executive coach and I work with senior leaders and leadership teams. And I'm joined by my two esteemed colleagues, Vanessa and Melinda, who I'll get to introduce themselves in just a second. And we'll come to you as well, Matt. We're going to hold you till last to introduce yourself. But do say hello. We are going across multiple channels, so don't worry if you can't see your other people's chat in the box. It might be that they're coming from Facebook or somewhere else, but just say hi, let us know where you are, and we'll be coming to say hello to you soon. But whilst you're doing that, and tell us where you are in the world. Is it sunny? Is it raining? Do we care? We do in England. Vanessa, who are you? What do you do?
Hi, who am I? I'm a marketer. There you go. And I work at eServe. That's it. Melinda, who are you?
Hi there. My name is Melinda Ward. I am the Director of Consulting Solutions and Managed Services for Helm 360. And now I think we need to introduce Sarah properly.
No, me. I've done me. I know. We know who I am. I'm an executive coach. I've said all that, but I want to know who. Hold on, I'm mirroring that way. Matthew Hotchkiss, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining us. If ever there was a real leader, it is this man. I haven't known you very long, have I?
No, not very long. No,
but
it's like forever.
It feels like forever, he says. But you are a top guy. You're a senior leader. You've been helping organizations for years achieve amazing sales success. But tell us a little bit about you. And then before we get into the main chat, we'll go and say hello to who's out there as well.
Sure. Thank you. It's very kind. I don't know if this is an American thing, but everybody's pointing at these different windows. Remember the Brady Bunch?
Yes.
Feels very Brady Bunchish.
Because I'm on reverse now, I'm all the wrong way around, Matt.
Another topic for another day, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Sarah said, thank you for that very kind intro. That was very lovely. My name's Matthew. Usually I'm in trouble. I've been living and working in the UK now for, the last 13 years. I'm originally from the west coast of the US, just north of Seattle, kind of on the Canadian border, for those of you trying to figure out what the accent is. For the last decade plus, I've been in senior leadership, head of positions for a variety of companies, in business development, sales, operations, people development roles. And most recently, I've been, for the last, 6-7 years now, it's been in the MSP kind of tech space, which I absolutely love. Oh. And that's a little about me. I'm really passionate about this topic that we're going to discuss today. I think, over the last year, I've been really actively looking at companies who are getting it right. And, they don't, there's a real disconnect between what people put on their kind of about us pages and their core values and what they hang on the posters right inside the door and what their actual company values and cultures are like and in true leaders. And so, I'm really excited to talk about this today.
Oh, good. So you're right. There is a massive disconnect. But when people do get it right, goodness me, what a pleasure it is to work with those companies. Vanessa, should we just check in and see who's saying hi?
Who is there? So Danny is back and he says, hello, everyone. Hello. And he is, as usual, joining from the shed quarters in sunny, rainy, against Stoke. It's a bit like that, isn't it, here? Andrew Cameron is here. It's the first time, so a warm welcome to you, Andrew.
Yeah. Welcome.
Andy David is back. Hello, Andy. Great to see you again. Somebody's showing off here. Paul is in Lanzarote, where it's very sunny.
Nice.
Dear me. And then Kimberly's back. Lovely to see you, Kimberly. She is in Calgary. Andrew says he's in Walton-on-Thames in the southwest of London.
Not far from me.
Andy says he loves the area around Portland, Oregon, a really beautiful place. There you go.
It is.
We have Umesh, and he says, hi, it's Umesh. Hi, Umesh. And then what does Danny say? Nods in absolute agreement about values and culture. Oh, yeah, you've got an affiliate there in this topic.
If you've not already connected in with Matt, then please do. Danny, you absolutely must. Danny's all about culture and creating a high performance, highly fulfilling culture. I probably got that wrong, Danny, but it's along those lines. He's all about culture, though. Right, let's kick off. So, when you and I were talking about the show and what to call the title, we were like, oh, should we call it people-centered leadership? Should we call it emotional intelligence leadership, servant leadership? And actually, what we've decided on is it's just real leadership. This is real leadership. And the real is responsible, empathetic, and authentic leadership.
Absolutely.
And if leaders can do that, it's a real game changer, right? What are the benefits of being a real leader? Actually, before I say
let's
that,
define it first, shall we?
well, I just did.
Well, I mean more completely. Like, what does that really mean? Like, authentic is used quite casually, let's say, these days. Oh, I want to be really authentic as I drink my juice, whatever. What does authentic leadership mean?
So I was going to go back and say, with those words in mind, what do you love about leadership, and what does that mean to you? This real title.
Talking to me?
Yeah, talking to you.
Right. Yes. Well, listen, there's a lot of buzzwords, and they're all good and they're all correct. I think that being a leader, a real leader, is a privilege and it's a great responsibility, and it's not just a promotion. It's the opportunity to inspire and empower others to reach their full potential, basically. Seeing teams and individuals grow and succeed has been incredibly fulfilling in my career, and one of the things that I treasure the most. I don't think real leadership is necessarily about being in charge. It's about taking care of those who are in your charge. And when we give people space to grow, I think we're often surprised by how much they are actually capable of. So it's just create a real leader, I think, really just creates a safe space where, and encourages and helps those that, again, have been put under their charge to
grow. And you're right. So many people don't believe how much they're actually capable of, and it's very easy for leaders to squash people and make them believe it's not that much. But the real leaders are the ones that create that space where people can thrive. So there's some obvious benefits in there. What are the main benefits you've seen from being able to manage yourself to be this real type of leader?
Well, I think firstly, it fosters a positive and inclusive work culture. It creates a place where individuals are valued, they feel supported and motivated. And that just increases engagement and productivity and everything else. I think, when people are in an environment where they have the freedom. I love this phrase. This was given to me years ago by a mentor of mine. He said, you need to give people the freedom to fail. You give them a safe space where they can try new things. They can be creative without fear of repercussions. And so I think secondly, when you look at leadership as kind of a people-centered activity, you build strong relationships, you build trust, you build loyalty within the team. And again, all those things, they just make everything work. It's greater collaboration, it's better teamwork, and people are happy. And I think thirdly, the thing that I've seen most, when leaders do get it right, they attract and they retain a top talent. People are drawn to environments where their well-being and their personal growth is prioritized. So I think those are some of the key. Those are probably the key benefits, I would say.
I'd agree. And Melinda, I mean, you're in both you and Vanessa are in senior leadership roles. What would you add to that? Anything? I mean, it all makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Anything you'd add? Any other benefits that you two have seen when you get this right?
Well, I think it could just go to the comments, because I really loved the idea of what you said, that it's not about being in charge, but it's taking care of those who are in your charge. And I think leaders often think it's taking care of the business that's in their charge and looking after the profits and the bottom line above all. Yet actually, when you think about it, it's taking care of the people, because you are a leader, you're leading the people. Then I think that's a really good way to look at it. And yes, leadership is a privilege, Andy says. Andy also agrees, I've just turned it off again, that it's good to hear this set of values articulated so well. And he also agreed with taking care of those in your charge. So yeah, that's resonated. Melinda, you were going to say.
Yeah, I was just going to add that I think a big part of that and of that leadership and helping people feel part of the team is not only encouraging people to listen to learn, but doing it yourself. Don't just assume that because you're the leader, you know everything that's going on and you know the right way, especially when you're starting in a new role. I found that sitting back and listening to what people have to say first before making the grand proclamation kind of is helpful because it might fine tune that grand proclamation. So it's not that what you've got in mind is wrong, but you can pitch it differently, think about some risks differently, those sort of things by listening to what everybody has to say.
Yeah, very good. And it takes real bravery to do this, doesn't it, Matt? You've got to be brave. You've got to have confidence in yourself because you're constantly going to be, I guess, battered is a good word, and stopped and rejected for your thoughts and the ways of working by other people around you. And it takes a real brave person to keep going and keep being emotionally intelligent, real servant leader type person.
You have to afford yourself the same that you're affording to those underneath you. I mean, we're all people. We all make mistakes. I mean, I've probably made 4 or 5 already today.
Congratulations.
But it's raising your hand. It's saying I've made a mistake. My mom, not mom. I'm from the U.S. My mom always used to say to me when I was growing up, and I say this to my son almost every morning when I drop off to school. I remind him, no one's perfect. Be kind and try to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that we make this way too complicated. We all know what to do. We all know what kind of leaders we want to lead us. Nobody wants to be micromanaged. Nobody wants to have be pressured or manipulated or work under a base of fear. But it's crazy how though when people do get in a leadership position, how they tend to revert back to those things that we don't like. And I think it's because that's what's been modeled to them as they've come up through their careers. That's that type of leadership. Do what I say, not what I do. I've said so. That's why. But going back to what you were saying, I think, Vanessa, when I had my last post, I can completely relate with what you were saying. In that when I came in, the first thing I did was sit down with every member of the company and just listen. Just sit back and listen. What's working? What's not working? What are you happy with? Where do you want to be in a few years? Just trying to get that holistic view instead of coming in and just, like a steamroller and saying, well, this is the way we did it here and this is the way we're going to do it now. And trying to have that interaction. And I think it takes some vulnerability. I think it takes emotional intelligence. I think it takes some years a lot of times to realize that, if we treat people the way that we want to be treated, again, very simple tenets. It relates across all of our relationships.
Yeah. It sounds so incredibly simple, doesn't it? But as somebody who specializes in working with people with imposter syndrome and self-limiting beliefs and low levels of confidence, I see on a daily basis how it's that mindset that drives the poor behaviors, the leadership we don't want. So it is modeled and we do learn it, but we think we're going to be faster if we tell people. We're not. Deep down, we know that's not true. No one really likes to be told anything. In fact, our brains immediately block when we're told to do something. But we've also got this, I want to show off and prove I'm really good and deserve this role. All of it is the wrong intent. But it's an innate intent to keep ourselves safe from looking a numpty or losing our job.
Well, listen, no company's perfect. Nobody themselves is perfect. There's always going to be challenges. But I think, one of the biggest challenges that leaders have who want to embrace these concepts and really live this is that if they're not getting that from the leaders above them, from the top down in a company, they're going to be constantly met with a challenge. They're going to have pressure from their leaders to prioritize short-term results over long-term relationships. That just fosters, issues with ego and self-interest. And as you said, it's a fear of vulnerability. It's a lack of empathy and low emotional intelligence. And it's a vicious circle. And it's something that I think that, we as a country, as a culture, as these different industries, we have to really take a step back. I mean, with COVID, it was almost kind of a great equalizer. Everybody got sent home,
Mhm.
and everybody had time to really sit and think about what's important to them.
Mm.
People want to be happy. They want to enjoy. I really believe that people, they're searching for significance in what they're doing and in the relationships that they have, whether they're in work or in their personal lives as well. And, we need to start thinking, we need to start doing things differently. If we don't, we're going to have a real crisis on our hands, especially with the younger generations coming up. They don't respond well to do it because I said so.
No.
You can tell somebody to do something and force them to do it, or you can take the other approach and say, listen, this is why we're doing this. We've listened to you. We've listened to everybody. You may not agree with it. However, this is why we're doing it. And I found that when you approach things, for example, like that, people may not agree, but they'll get behind you and they'll support you because you've taken the time to explain to them why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's just simple. Again, everybody wants these tips and tricks. They want a top 10 list. What should I do to be a better leader? And there's lots of those out there. But really, it's just looking inward and being kind, treating people like you want to be treated, and putting them first. If you put people first, you put your team first, and you help them succeed, you'll be successful.
Yeah.
Should we pop to the comments, because there's one thing I do want to say is that you do make it sound very simple, because you are what I would describe as one of the very few, the 1 to 2% of leaders who are innately emotionally intelligent. And because it's innate in you, it's like, why can't people just do this thing? And it doesn't mean you get it right all the time, by the way.
It's hard. I know you want to comment. It is very difficult, and it's a conscious thing. I have to daily check myself.
Yeah.
I get stressed like everybody else, and somebody's arguing with me or they're not getting it. I just want to say, you know what, just do it. Just do it. Sorry, it's my phone going off now.
Okay, just do it. Let's pop to the comment.
Yeah. Okay, so Danny said if he could share his own, to create spaces where all can contribute purposefully without fear of ridicule or reprimand.
Yeah.
Kimberly says allow people to be themselves. People thrive when working in their natural talents and on fun, creative teams. If that's what they want, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. Ask people, what do they want? What do they love about their job? And really allow them to do that, and find other people in the team that'll take up the slack and other things. I agree with you with that. So Danny says it can also be culture, the agreed ways of working around here. If the culture nudges people to behave or accept behaviors in a way that's actually incongruent with the business, then managers, leaders then adopt behaviors or force people to deliver for the business that feel uncomfortable. Force people to.
I get the gist.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I got lost partway through there, but
Yeah.
Those misaligned cultures make everything harder work.
Saying, yeah.
Danny's on a roll here. People have a habit of becoming what you encourage them to be and not what you nag them to be. Andy says that's exactly what Herb Kelleher of Southwest Air used to say. You've got everyone chatting. Deborah says, I stopped using treat people how I would like to be treated, and then started using treat people how they want to be treated.
Very good.
Yes. And Andy says, if you're not familiar with Herb's story, check out the Innovation Stack. It's a fascinating book. I liked, or just wanted to add as well, I like what you were saying about being brave in leadership and showing that vulnerability. Because I think what we have to do is we have to show that we're always learning. And we also have to employ people who are better than us. And being a good leader it's all right if you've got people in your team who are better than you at different things, because you're curating a perfect team.
Yeah,
and so you've got to be brave to take on someone who's better than you, because people are scared that they're going to have their jobs. But that's a mark of truly
brave and secure in yourself. This is where confidence comes in. People with low levels of confidence cannot be brave enough to have someone in their team that might surpass them, and yet that's exactly what they need and should be striving for.
Exactly.
You have to. You can't ever lose the ability to admit that you've made a mistake and own up to it. Raise your hand. I made a mistake. And those 3 words, I am sorry.
Mm.
Yeah.
I have apologized to my team members more times than I can count. When I get frustrated sometimes, I get tired, I just make a mistake, I didn't listen well. And I think it's very important for them to see you as a real person who actually cares about them. And when you admit that you are fallible, you're not perfect. Just because you have some sort of a leadership, CIO, head of whatever in front of your name does not mean you all of a sudden are some omnipotent, master of the universe. You're a real human being.
Unfortunately.
We come to work after having a fight with our spouse, tripping in the drive, whatever, and we bring that with us. And we have to just be, I think it's all about being real. It's being authentic, more buzzwords. And it is very, very difficult at times, but you have to want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some people seem to think, well, some people who've maybe not experienced this real leadership type concept and empathetic leadership seem to think that, oh, if you listen to people, if you say you're sorry, if you admit mistakes, you're just being a pushover. But it's actually quite the opposite. And it looks so insecure when people see, for teams, to see managers being, resistant to listening and uncomfortable with that. So that's where I think a lot of new leaders who haven't had guidance can go astray, because they think they have to be like the tough leader who knows everything about everything, when actually that's exactly not the case.
People don't need it and they don't want it. So let's have a think. I'm just conscious of time now. So real leadership. The real is the responsible, empathetic, authentic leader that is an emotional intelligence servant leader, whatever you want to call it. People-centered. They put people first, but they care a lot about the figures too. It's not that we don't care about getting good business results. It's just we know we get it through people, not the other way around. I know you're not a fan of top tips. Here's a top 10 tips to be a real leader. But if you could give people advice, anyone listening today, what advice or what tips would you give them? What's helped you most?
That's a tough one,
isn't it?
I think.
Get a coach. Sorry, did I say that out loud? Get a coach. Have training. Whoa, I finished. I'm done.
I think there's a few things that everybody can do. And I think there's things that I've struggled with, that I've had to work on. I think that have made huge differences. I think the first is to practice active listening. Most people don't listen. They're just waiting to respond.
Yeah.
They're hearing you talk and they're processing how they're going to respond to it. So they feel important. They don't sound stupid, whatever. And it's taking that time to really listen to what somebody's telling you. Ask follow-up questions to make sure you really understand. People communicate differently. They give different cues. Every team member is different. What's important to one may not be important to another. Again, it's taking the time to get to know your people, and you do that by active listening. I think the second thing is cultivating self-awareness. That's probably a 3-hour topic, but it's reflecting on your own strengths, your own weaknesses, your leadership style, being honest about what your values are, your biases, your triggers.
What are your thoughts on leadership 360s, on behavioral 360s? Have you ever done those? What do you?
Yeah, listen, I think they all have their place. But again, I like to try to keep things simple and call it old school, whatever. I think we make things too complicated. I really do. There's some great tools out there. Don't get me wrong. And I think they're in place. But, at the end of the day, it's about prioritizing employee growth and development, your team's growth and development. If you invest in your people, and you provide mentorship, guidance, you give them the resources they need to acquire new skills, achieve their professional goals. When you prioritize their development, they'll die for you, because they know you care about them. They know you want them to succeed. There's nothing worse than being in an unbalanced relationship, whether it's in business or whether it's in your personal life.
Mm-hmm.
Both people need to get something out of that for it to work. A mentor of mine told me that once, and I've always held on to that. And if you're genuine and people trust you, and that takes time to build, like anything in any relationship, and they see that that you actually want them to succeed. You want them to be happy. They'll give and they'll give and they'll give. They'll do their best, and that's all you can ask for.
I love that. I love that just that thing. Unbalanced relationships don't work.
Yeah,
and that's so powerful, isn't it? And it's so true. So that's
so you've got to get the level of power right. You don't want to overpower or underpower. There's some really good comments coming up, and Andy's got a great question as well. So I don't know if we can just pop over.
Yeah, let's see. So Danny says inclusion is where you can say, I need help. That applies to all members of a group, including the leader.
Yeah.
And then Andy asks, what qualities do you look for when adding to your team?
I want people who are genuine, who are going to be real. When I first got hired, my first real sales role, my mentor's name was Terry, and he said to me, sat me down, he said, listen, there's only a couple of things that are going to set me off. They'll do my head in, he said, don't lie to me and be honest.
Yeah.
Said, make a mistake, raise your hand. I distilled that all down to it's just being authentic, being honest, and willing to jump in there with everybody else and be kind. Again, I love that phrase, be kind. Just be kind.
And what do you do then? Because there are something you said earlier, and I know this question comes up when I'm talking to my clients, is not you're talking about making sure everyone's got developing them that gives them the buzz. They'll give you their pound of flesh and all of that lovely stuff. But there's also people in your team that are just the main. I say just, take the word just out. They are the mainstay of your team. They want to stay doing what they're doing. They don't want to be promoted. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on that in maintaining fulfillment, productivity, performance? How do you handle that? Is it the same?
Yeah, I think so. Listen, there's always going to be people who want to move ahead and grow. And there's other people who are happy where they're at, for whatever reason. And there's nothing wrong with that. As long as they are being productive and they're happy and they're not detracting from anybody else in the team, in terms of being a motivation sucker or whatever, then that's okay. I don't personally have a problem with that. If I need somebody in a position and I need them to grow and that person's not there, then that's when we need to sit down and have a conversation and see if we if there's a better seat within the company for that person. If it's a good person, I'll go to the moon and back to try to find a different seat within the organization for them that's a better fit. So it's all about finding the right people for the right seats.
Absolutely.
So you have to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I think we are just about to run out of time. Melinda, any final comments from you?
I was just thinking one of the things that Matthew had said was quite close to what president of a company when I was quite junior had said, which was basically everybody you meet in the world is either a prospective colleague or a prospective client. So you should treat them with that respect. And it was like right up there with that, it is treat others the way,
they want to be treated.
They want to be treated. And it makes such a difference. And the people who manage with a condescending attitude don't seem to go anywhere near as far, in my opinion.
And they leave a trail of sorrow and frustration in their wake.
Right, we literally got a minute away. Thank you.
Andy's just jumped in and said, great conversation. He's taking it as a validation of his values and leadership style. Thank you, Matt. There you go.
Lovely.
Thank you so much, Matt, for joining us. And like we said before we even came on air, we could talk about so many bits of this for hours and hours and hours. And I hope we continue to talk about this because you are an inspiration and you're a joy to talk to. Just so everybody knows, next week is our last show of the summer. We're taking a 2-month hiatus. And we would love to know next week what you want us to focus on. And we're going to ask you lots of questions. So do show up and we're going to be having a nice old chinwag about stuff too. So I shall bid you all farewell. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Melinda. Thank you, Matt. Have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful week, everybody. And we'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye.